All right, so I want to talk a little bit about trust and conspiracies, conspiracy theories. I think it comes out of trust. Trust is important, right? Trust, when you're getting information and you don't trust it, you're not going to listen to it, right? You might actually do the opposite. I think trust is a very important factor to think about. So I did a little digging, looked at some of the statistics that are publicly available around trust, and I was a little surprised, right? So we're going to talk about trust and the impacts and the side effects, right? The outcome of lack of trust. So start with the government, right? Everybody trusts the government, don't they? Maybe, maybe not. So Pew Research poll, currently fewer than 2 in 10 Americans say they trust the government in Washington to do what is right. Just about always 1% of the population of the United States trust the government to do what is right, just about always. 15% most of the time. So 85% of the people surveyed, Pew Research poll, 85% of the population do not trust the government to do what is right most of the time, or less. Among the lowest trust measures in nearly 7 decades of polling. It was actually a little bit lower previously, a couple presidents ago. It was actually lower. It spiked up last president, and now we're pretty close to historic lows. 15% population trust our government to do what is right. It's a little scary. We'll keep going, and I'm not saying I blame them. What about the media? I always hear about the mainstream media. It's where we're supposed to get our information, right? I saw the Civil War movie. The hardcore investigative reporters risking their life to get us the story, get us the truth. Well, maybe not. So if you look at Axios, there's a Gallup poll, details only 32% of the population reports having a great deal or fair amount of confidence that the media reports the news in a fair and full and accurate way. The only other time it was this low was 2016. So most, once again, 32%, 68% population of the United States really don't trust the media. So 85% don't trust the government, 68% don't trust the media, but all continue, right? The numbers are kind of interesting. So what about CDC? There's a SIDRAP, has a study, quality of information during the last pandemic. Got to be careful here, the censorship. So this is kind of a long list, but I think it's worth looking at, laying it out. So physicians and nurses receive the highest ratings for the provision of general health information, with about half saying they trust them a great deal, 54% for physicians, 48% for nurses. So about half of people seem to say they have some trust in their physician, in their doctor, their primary care physician, 48% in nurses. So scientists working on health issues get about 44%, and pharmacists get 40%. So less trust in pharmacists, certainly more than the government. That sets the bar pretty low at 15%. National and federal institutions, you had 39% said they trusted the American Cancer Society, right? Now, this was interesting. 37% trusted the CDC. I'm a little surprised at that. 33% trust the National Institute of Health. 26% said they trust local authorities. 25% said the state officials were trustworthy. 10% said none, don't trust anything. But you add those numbers up, and that was in response to the last pandemic, and pretty recent. I tried to find recent studies here. Once again, trust pretty low across the board. I was trying to find something on the World Health Organization. I didn't find a lot on that. There was something from back in 2020, which is basically pre-pandemic. 46% of Americans had a lot of trust. 31 had some trust. 12 had no trust. So maybe that's changed. I couldn't really find anything new. So this was kind of fun, right? So what about YouTubers? How about your social media influencers? Do people trust them? So 59% of Gen Zers aged 18 to 26 view YouTube as somewhat or very trustworthy. Of 6 platforms, Facebook fared the worst. 60% of adult Gen Zers calling it untrustworthy. So at least you guys trust your YouTubers. I trust some of them to a certain extent as well. I think some of it's a little bit BS, but that's certainly, I guess that's par for the course, right? Interesting one on dietitians. I was trying to find how many people trust dietitians, nutritionalists, that idea of food, health, science, and my trust level on that is pretty low right now. I was just looking at a study that said that intermittent fasting, or suggested potentially that intermittent fasting actually caused health issues, had no health benefits. I'm sure the study will get reviewed, debunked, but that's the problem, right? Is they keep saying, hey, do this, and then 2 years later they're like, that was wrong, do this. Hey, eat butter, eat margarine, don't eat butter, margarine's bad, take these vitamins, don't take these vitamins. How many different diets are there? Vegan, vegetarian, keto, carnivore, ketovore. Like you'd think in 2024, we would just know what the right food is to feed people, right? The food that's going to make you healthy, happy, live a long life. Apparently, we still can't figure it out. So my trust in that personally is pretty low. I didn't find any actual numbers, but it seems like they tell you to do one thing and then turn around and tell you later, oh, that was wrong, do something else. People can't seem to agree. It should be pretty obvious what people need, right? But they don't. So what are you going to do with that? So what does it mean, though, right? We'll go back up. Trust in media, trust in government. I went off on a rabbit hole there. What's the impact, right? So what's the impact when you don't trust the government, when you don't trust media? Well, they can come out and be like, hey, aliens are real. People are like, nah, that's bull. That's BS. I don't believe that at all. It's the boy that called wolf, that old story, right? You call wolf enough times, and when the wolf shows up, no one believes you. We're at that point that no one believes them. They can say just about anything. Hey, an asteroid's going to hit. And you're like, yeah, no. Probably not. Thanks, though. Said aliens. We're like, aliens are real. We're like, no, probably not. Thanks, though. It's delayed response, right? If you're trying to be prepared, trying to adapt, trying to understand what's actually going on in the world around you, and you don't trust any of the information you're getting, you start to develop your own theories, right? And that's where we see the recent rise of conspiracy theories. And I've had that conversation with many people online. They're like, those darn conspiracy theorists, and they don't say it that way. Well, when 85% of people don't trust the government, they're going to start coming up with their own ideas of what's actually going on. I think I said about 60% don't trust the media. It's probably a little higher than that. Scrolling back up here, 68% don't trust the media. You see something on the news, 68% don't believe it. We start to develop our own theories of what's going on, trying to understand the world, right? What's going on? There's wars, there's this, there's that, all sorts of horrible stuff. And in order to prepare yourself to respond, you at least have to have some sense of what's going on around you. And when you don't trust any of the information you're getting, once again, I know I'm going in a loop there, I'm looping, but it's strange times we live in. So something I found kind of fun. You guys can explain this. We're on YouTube. I'm not going to try to explain this. We already said only about 15% trust the government, and that's relatively historic. That's not necessarily something new, though recently it seems like we're getting close to all-time lows. I looked up congressional stagnation. You can look that up. It's interesting. It's an American political theory that attempts to explain the high rate of incumbency re-election in the United States House of Representatives. In recent years, the rate has been well over 90%. So congressional stagnation is saying over 90%. I think it might have been more like 98, 95, really depends, of our politicians get reelected, right? And I'm not speculating on why that is, but it seems the absolute inverse of the amount of trust we have in government. 85% don't trust the government, yet 90+% of politicians get reelected consistently. So I don't know on that. I'll let you speculate. This is YouTube, right? How is it that people don't trust them, but they keep voting for them. And maybe it has to do with something with trusting your guy, but not trusting the system. Maybe not. Maybe there's something else going on there that I don't understand, right? But it's strange times, guys. I mean, that level of distrust, something went severely wrong along the way. These are the information sources, the people that are supposed to represent us, that we're supposed to trust to be running everything, and it's just not there, right? So I hope that helps out, right? As always, just sharing my thoughts for today. Hope that helps out. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate you.